Being bilingual, it turns out, can have a substantial effect on your brain, improving cognitive skills not related to language and even shielding against dementia in old age. This view of bilingualism is remarkably different from the understanding of bilingualism through much of the 20th century. Researchers, educators, and policymakers long considered a second language to be an interference, cognitively speaking, that held back a child's academic and intellectual development. They were not wrong about the interference. There is a considerable amount of evidence that in a bilingual's brain both language systems are active even when he is using only one language, thus creating situations in which one system obstructs the other. But this interference, researchers are finding out, isn't so much a handicap as a blessing in disguise. It forces the brain to resolve internal conflict, giving the mind a workout that strengthens its cognitive muscles. Bilinguals, for instance, seem to be more proficient than monolinguals at solving certain kinds of mental puzzles. In a 2004 study by the psychologists Ellen Bialystock and Michelle Martin-Ree, bilingual and monolingual preschoolers were asked to sort blue circles and red squares presented on a computer screen into two digital boxes, one marked with a blue square and the other marked with a red circle. In the first task, the children had to sort the shapes by color, placing blue circles in the box marked with the blue square and red squares in the box marked with the red circle. Both groups did this with comparable ease. Next, the children were asked to sort by shape, which was more challenging because it required placing the images in a box marked with a conflicting color. The bilinguals were quicker at performing this task. The collective evidence from a number of such studies suggests that the bilingual experience improves the brain's so-called executive function, a system that directs the attention processes that we use for planning, solving problems, and performing various other mentally demanding tasks. These processes include ignoring distractions to stay focused, in other words, inhibition, switching attention willfully from one thing to another, and holding information in mind like remembering a sequence of directions while driving. Why does the struggle between two simultaneously active language systems improve these aspects of cognition? Until recently, researchers thought the bilingual advantage stemmed primarily from an ability for inhibition that was strengthened by suppressing one language system, which would help train the bilingual mind to ignore unnecessary information in other contexts. But that explanation increasingly appears to be inadequate, since studies have shown that bilinguals perform better than monolinguals even at tasks that do not require inhibition, like connecting an ascending series of numbers scattered randomly on a page. The key difference between bilinguals and monolinguals may be more basic, a heightened ability to monitor the environment. Bilinguals have to switch languages quite often. You may talk to your father in one language and to your mother in another language, says Albert Costa, a researcher at the University of Pompeu Fabra in Spain. It requires keeping track of changes around you in the same way that we monitor our surroundings when driving. In a study comparing German-Italian bilinguals with Italian monolinguals on monitoring tasks, Mr. Costa and his colleagues found that the bilingual subjects not only performed better, but they also did so with less activity in parts of the brain involved in monitoring, indicating that they were more efficient at it. In a 2009 study led by Agnes Kovacs of the International School for Advanced Studies in Trieste, Italy, 7-month-old babies exposed to 2 languages from birth were compared with others raised with one language. In an initial set of experiments, the infants were presented with a sound and then shown a doll on one side of a screen. Both infant groups learned to look at that side of the screen in anticipation of the doll. But in a later set of experiments, when the doll began appearing on the opposite side of the screen, the babies exposed to a bilingual environment quickly learned to switch their anticipatory gaze in the new direction, while the other babies did not. Bilingualism's effects also extend into the twilight years. In a recent study of 44 elderly Spanish-English bilinguals, scientists led by the neuropsychologist Tamer Golan of the University of California, San Diego, found that individuals with a higher degree of bilingualism measured by comparing skills in each language were more resistant than others to the onset of dementia and other symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. The higher the degree of bilingualism, the later the appearance of symptoms.